Welcome to the Last Beer Show.
All right, I'm good.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Are you sure?
And player, I'm ready.
Jason, what's up?
Hey, Wayne. How's it going, buddy?
It's going well.
Yeah?
I'm still coughing.
Yeah?
Apologize in advance.
It's all right. It is the season. 'Tis the season for the coffin.
Is that what they say?
That is what they say, whoever they are.
Awesome. So, we got a guest today.
We have a guest.
So before we get into that, tell me what you have gotten into since last time we spoke.
Well, I have actually...
Yeah, come on.
Huh?
I know you're going light now.
I am going light, but I've been drinking through some of the beers that I picked up in Nashville last weekend. And,
Oh, yeah.
And so
Southern Grist
a
stopping.
lot of Southern Grist beer. And then also I've been itching to go through some of my stouts since it is stout season. And it seems like I wait all year long to delve into the stouts. And then I realized, holy crap, stout season's here. I need to start drinking these.
Those winter warmers.
And so, yeah, I have been slowly drinking through some stouts, mainly the Prairie Stouts because they're small format bottles.
Mm-hmm.
But I find myself eagerly awaiting a different stout each night. Although, like I said, I have cut back greatly and I'm only drinking 1 or 2 beers a week.
Sure.
So, for health reasons. So that's what I've been into. What about you?
Couple of good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Central State, Phase Shift. Their sour
We've
farmhouse.
talked about them a good bit.
That's a good can, my friend. I liked that one a lot. A couple of locals, and but I did get into something that surprised me.
Yeah.
So just one of these ones you didn't expect it to be maybe as good as it was. I don't know why I had low expectations, but the Weihenstephaner, the Braupunkt, the one that is the collab they did with Sierra Nevada.
Okay.
It's like a hopped up Hefeweizen. It was really good. It was like, it had that like sweet wheat dryness, right? But also solid, bitter, crispy, acidic hop.
Yeah.
It was like, I want to say they probably had Cascade. I think it was Cascade and Centennial and Chinook or something like that. Like really high alpha acid hops, and it was fire. I was like, oh, that's good, and you can get it super cheap.
You're a huge fan of the high alpha hops.
Fontaflora Swoon units also pretty solid.
I'm a fan of the lunar. What is it? The lunar bombs.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Lunar bombs.
Yeah, lunar something.
From them?
Yeah, from
Is it the
Fontaflora.
beet
Lunar Aqua.
Lunar Aqua. It's the one with blackberries.
Blueberries.
Blueberries.
Yeah, it's good.
I thought it was blackberries. Blueberries. But it's a sour ale with blueberries, I guess. Is a really good beer. And we're kind of grateful to have a lot of those beers in the Georgia market as of recently.
They keep coming hot and heavy.
Hot and heavy.
So introduce our guest.
Yeah, so on the show this month, we've got Ritesh Patel, who is the owner and proprietor, manager, closer, floor sweeper, all things of a really good bottle shop here in the Atlanta area called Max's Bottle Shop. That reminds me, who is Max?
Hey guys, how are y'all? Max was a friction character that we just came up with when we were deciding for a name for the store.
Okay.
We were going to name it the name of the complex,
which
just got too long. So we're like, we need something small, something catchy, something that's going to stay in people's minds. And we're like, I knew a guy named Max when I was in high school.
Okay.
It's like, it just popped in my head and we're like, let's go with that.
What's this?
So
Cool.
It's a little easier to remember than Ritesh's Bottle Shop.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
Hey, let's Ritesh's Bottle Shop.
We thought it would be neat to talk to a bottle shop owner, manager, just because we have not had one on the show, which is hard to believe.
It has, because we have shared the experience of craft beer from the eyes and minds of a lot of different people who touch craft
Like
beer.
fans, brewers.
Yep, that's right.
People in the media.
Yep.
but not a bottle shop owner.
not
So
a
we
bottle
thought
shop owner.
That'd be a cool take.
Yep.
So
It's an honor. It's an honor to be here.
So we're glad to have him here. We actually we did a little bit of pre-research tonight too. We actually visited his bottle shop and did a little bit of research for the show, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. So yeah, it should be a fun show.
we have a theory. We're going to talk about 5 bottles that are on the shelf, that sit on shelves collecting dust for no good damn reason.
No reason at all.
Right? Can I simplify it more? I mean,
Yeah,
for no real good reason.
No, absolutely not.
Other than the fact that now this show will have to be explicit now
Because I said damn.
yeah. You'll see an E on the.
I mean, it's easy for me to hit
bonus
the
round.
button. Half our episodes do it.
Yeah. Well,
Usually during the after party, we go off the rails. a
We've
little bit.
actually talked a lot about on this show. We've talked a lot about how ridiculous it is some of the beers that you can find on the shelf.
We brought
these
it up, but
days.
we haven't
Addressed it.
directly.
Correct.
And now that we've got someone with deep bottle shop knowledge
Yes.
here with us, we're gonna rock that.
And-
But first, I want to learn more about the shop. I got questions.
Yes.
I know you have questions. Like, I have no idea what it's like to run a shop. I have no idea what you see when you're running a shop. I have no idea how to procure the product. I have no idea how to stock it, turn it, how you manage it. And I think that could be really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. So before we let Ritesh run into that, let's talk a little bit about what we're drinking. And so Ritesh brought us a little something. So what did you bring us to share, Ritesh?
First one was Creature Comforts Dracula's Blood. It's a
Berliner
Berliner
right?
Weiss, I believe, with passion fruit, cacao nibs, hibiscus, and lactose.
Yeah, very good. What do you think?
Tasty,
Yeah.
mild. Not a whole lot of fruit, but it's
Like
a nice 4.5%er.
it's like sour and creamy.
Yeah,
It
doesn't
reminds-
have a lot of acidity, which I don't mind at this time of the hour.
At
No
night when
Tums.
you don't have to eat a bunch
It
of
reminds
Tums.
me of a cool variant of their Athena Paradiso, right?
Yeah.
Softer,
A
definitely
version
softer
of
because
that.
of the
not
lactose.
as not as tart as their Athena Paradiso, which we've talked about before. Their Athena Paradiso is meant to be a gateway into sours. That's the way they originally intended it, and I believe that it is that way now.
I mean, that's a good beer.
That's a great beer.
More of a summertime thing.
Yep. And then I just opened up this, which is Modern Times out of San Diego. This is their Devil's Teeth, aged in bourbon barrels with strawberry and vanilla on Nitro. And man, they make some incredibly beautiful cans. This is the red and gold can. Just such a beautiful can. But this Devil's Teeth is a perennial favorite of mine. Their coffee versions of these stouts are incredible. So that's what we're drinking now.
Their
And,
label game is strong.
Agreed. So tell us a little bit about how you got into opening the shop and kind of what you see as what you do in day in and day out.
So we got into it. I mean, it wasn't out of luck. I had worked sales pretty much my entire adulthood, if you would, and really got tired of the corporate world and said, you know what, I'm gonna venture out, and looked at shops to buy previously before we pulled the trigger on actually opening up a shop. And then again, 5 years later, me and a family member, we decided, you know what, instead of paying someone any kind of big money, why not invest what we have and just head straight down. So we looked at locations, got, permits, licensing, the whole 9 yards, and then we opened in October of 2013.
5 years.
5 years.
Wow.
We just got over the hump 2 months ago. It feels good. Feels very good to be over the hump now.
And you have a lot of product.
Yes.
Like you have a fairly large room, but you also have a lot of high-end liquor.
Yes.
You have deep wine catalog.
Definitely.
And a deep beer catalog.
Yes.
And
So
coolers. You got about 10 coolers back there.
we are sitting on 16 doors. But all in all, since we're talking about beer, we're not including domestics, we're tapping at right around 1,100 SKUs.
Wow. It's definitely one of the bigger bottle shops in the Atlanta area by a long shot.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's a lot of headache just because you gotta make sure products aren't A, getting old, B, you're doing the FIFO where you keep buying the same product over and over, but
First
make
in,
sure
first out.
first in, first out.
Yep, I remember
First thing
that.
I learned in retail. So if you have the same SKU coming in, make sure your old SKUs are getting pulled, new ones are getting in the back. So it was a training, but I knew some of the training getting into it. Obviously, first bottle shop, first ever experience in the liquor industry, all in all, 5 years ago. And basically had to start from zero, and now I think I'm comfortably at, I want to say about 40% knowledge, if I would, from where I want to be. That speaks words. It's the 40% of what I've learned is too much already. So I'm imagining getting to 60 or 80%. I don't think I'm gonna retain a lot of that information. Just because it's the amount of things you learn on a day-to-day basis, whether it's wine, liquor, beer, or just the business in general. It is immense. I mean,
Wow.
it's
So here's something that I think that is incredibly fascinating to me is that when I see you, I see a lot of work, and yet there is this idea that folks like you have this glamorous job that you're like the keeper of all of the Pappy and rare beers, and for some reason that makes you this glamorous star, which is kind of crazy to me because as you told me, you're closing every night this week, and you have to be there till 9:00 every night, and that's not incredibly glamorous to me. If you were an owner that had to close every night, I mean, it means you work your butt off.
it's a lot. It's a misperception I think in society in general that once you get into the liquor business, you've made it. People don't see the ins and outs, the downs, not the ups. Everybody sees the ups. That's all people see.
Yeah. Now that I think about that, like almost every time I've been into another bottle shop in our area, the owner is there. Another bottle shop, the owner is there. Now that I think about it, those owners are pretty much always there, except for the largest bottle shop in our area, and it's because he owns three or four other businesses.
You can't have a massive staff. I mean, the margins aren't there.
Yeah, exactly. So it is.
Well, you can. You got to get to a certain level in sales to get to a level where, okay, I can have a day off. But until I get to that level, again, 5 years in, I can't expect to be, I'm going to take 2 days off a week and just go enjoy my life. The business would start deteriorating, and I see it when I take vacations. If and when I take vacations, my sales go down because I'm not there to sell the product or to stock it a certain way or offer it to people that are actually going to appreciate whatever product, wine, liquor, or beer.
Right.
It has to be put into perspective to your consumer and not to your perspective.
Yes.
I might like stuff that other people might not enjoy. So asking that question or two questions, hey, what do you like? Instead of, hey, this is good, go drink it.
And I'll say this, and this is those folks will not listen to this podcast, so I'm not in any way worried about offending anyone. But while we were at your store,
You better hope so.
I watched the purchases made by the folks who came in the store. They weren't people that were buying the same beers and things that we buy.
No,
they were
definitely not.
They were absolute.
Those weren't craft
absolute
heads.
Mandarin,
Yeah.
and they were definitely people that they have a very specific thing in mind. It's definitely macro.
We saw the
and
Mississippi
They're
Mud.
definitely not the majority of the people who shop in your store.
These are your people that actually keep you in the business. So without those people, us as bottle shops and liquor stores can't survive.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
Yep.
Like, if all you sell is craft beer, that's a pretty small audience.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't survive
You
as
need
a business.
small real estate.
And that's the key. It's I'd love to just own all craft. So if that's with liquor, wine, or beer. If I were to say let's cut out the 60% of what's in my store, I'd be out of business in a year.
Yeah.
Every bottle shop, every craft beer bottle shop that I know of that just focused on craft beer has expanded into wine.
Oh yeah,
Every
They have
single
to.
one of them.
Yeah. Or they sell growlers and things on premise and food and other things.
Well, you got to
too,
make
so-
your margins, and wine is your margin maker, where that gives you the income that you can then go and invest into craft that might or might not sell, which is the issue. Which a lot of people don't understand is that, okay, well, why don't you start this? Why don't you carry this? Why don't you carry that? Why don't you carry the third thing? And my answer is like, if I started carrying every possible spirit, beer, and wine, I'd need a 50,000 square foot store.
Yeah, and that's a lot of
And
stuff.
a lot of
just
stuff
sit
would collect
there.
dust.
Yeah, so
It'd be
It's just more surfaces to clean.
Pardon my language. It'll be shelf turds on every aisle.
yeah.
So
This is a great segue.
It's a great segue.
I mean, you lay up
you literally
right into
you
it.
literally you volleyed
Like-
us at the net, and
like-
then you asked us to spike
I was
it
like,
over.
I was like LeBron going into the paint.
Come on, he didn't even know it either.
Done.
Yeah, it's done.
He's like he's an old pro
That's
at
a
this
wrap.
podcasting game.
That's a wrap.
Old pro.
Yep.
So we want to talk about some of those bottles.
Yeah, so we talked about what we consider shelf turds, and obviously
These aren't shelf turds. Well, maybe
Wayne
some
and
people
I
think
are
they
at
are.
different. I'll say Wayne and I are at different levels of this craft beer fandom, and I say that because Wayne will still drink a lot of beers. Wayne is not of this idea that you can't drink craft beer more than once.
That's
and
true.
Historically, I have been, just because there's just so much craft beer I've wanted to explore. Now, I
You're
will
a
admit-
whale hunter, my
I
friend.
will admit my failures, and I'll admit I posted the article on Facebook, and I will post it actually on the Last Beer Show Facebook page, because it's a great article that was done on VinePair.
Yep.
You can drink the same craft beer twice. It's got some great interviews from Jeppe from Evil Twin and a bunch of other folks. And so, but Wayne is not of that volition. Wayne actually will drink a lot of beers over and over again. He loves. I love local beers too, but he primarily only drinks local beers.
I primarily only drink local.
Yep.
I will buy a few every once in a while, especially of the Belgian Persuasion or German. Love German beers.
And so we are at different levels and spaces. So shelf turds for both of us would be different. And then we thought how different that has to be for somebody like yourself, who definitely sees it from a different area.
We saw this opportunity because you're familiar with what moves off the shelf and what doesn't.
Right.
In a way that someone who's just a consumer isn't intimate with that kind of information. So we thought this would be a good opportunity to finally drop this conversation. You can participate. I know you made a list.
Oh, yeah.
We've made lists. We went through your store and we made a list.
Yep,
You can't look at my list. Don't look at my list.
So we made a list of our 5, and these are, at least for myself, these are in no order. They're just 5 beers that I noticed on Ritesh's shelf. That and keep in mind, the reason why I wanted to do this was because on ample visits to Max's Bottle Shop, which is Ritesh's shop, I found myself just in awe of the beer that you could just see on the shelf there. And I'm not talking about beer that just came in. I'm not going to include any of those beers that just came in. I'm talking about beers that every time I go there, I'm blown away.
But it's
that
not
they're
just
sitting there.
I mean, no offense, it's not just his shop.
It's not just
Every
his
shop
shop.
you go into,
That's exactly right.
a lot of the beers we're going to bring up, I promise you.
Yep.
Like at the end, maybe we'll
But
ask
that was
that
the
question.
catalyst for me thinking about
You're
it.
going to see dust on these bottles
Yep.
in a lot of places.
So
you go.
I picked 5, and I included a couple honorable mentions. Wayne, you picked 5, and I think you picked a couple honorable mentions.
I'm not the overachiever. You are. But
What?
I picked an extra.
Okay.
How's that?
An extra. And then Ritesh, you've got your 5.
Yes.
And I'm sure you have an extra that
It might be
barely made the
arguable.
cut.
I don't have it listed, but I can close my eyes and look at my shelves and tell you what's been there for more than 6 months.
Okay.
Now, disclaimer, because he says these bottles or agrees with some of the bottles that we mention, Jason and I, does not mean you can go in knowing it's been there a while and ask for a discount. Okay, that's off the table.
Well,
I just want that
definitely
off the table.
And, and this is definitely not. We're not saying that these beers are sitting on every shelf
and
of
this
every
is not,
bottle shop.
Or
we're saying we went to a bottle shop that we've been to on multiple occasions, and these beers are just sitting on the shelf on multiple occasions,
and they're available.
Surprising,
and you should think about them.
That's exactly right.
In between chasing
Wales.
what is hot and new and what is Wales, because I know if a beer is 3 weeks old now, it's apparently spoiled like milk. So.
Yes,
and it's different at obviously different pockets have different sales, and I've seen it in again all 3 categories in the shop. There's some beers that we cannot keep in stock that other shops probably down the street.
What are those 3? You said 3 categories. What are those?
Wine, beer, and liquor.
I thought you meant 3 categories of beer.
No.
Really?
No, I obviously IPAs are still going to be your category leader in probably every shop you walk into.
Yeah.
Just because that's the time we live in.
Yep.
IPAs are what drives craft beer right now. Yep. Sure.
It has been for 20 years.
I will say it has been.
Yeah.
I do sense the trends kind of moving away from IPAs.
But then because they're changing the styles. Now they're not making, your traditional IPAs are kind of.
I think it's actually, I actually think it's fatigue from my perspective.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, there's also been creativity in the last 10 years in the IPA space. You did not see 20 years ago.
But now you're seeing creativity in like the lager Pilsner space. Where you didn't see it before.
Well, they're branching out, yeah.
So I think that there's a combination of A, people being fatigued with New England IPAs, B, brewers stepping up with really good lagers and pilsners and other beers like Kvass's and other beers that aren't historical beers. Or they're historical, but they're not. And then...
get us started.
All right.
Come on.
Something else?
No,
So,
I want your list.
My list.
He's talking about your list.
This glass is empty.
I'm open to more beer.
Glass is empty.
But
I'm going to open this. This is Untitled Art, which is out of Waunakee, Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. And Untitled Art has really come into our area really strong. And they are putting out some really, really good stouts. Yeah. This is their coconut milk stout. I have not actually even had this yet.
They make some good beer.
They do.
Legit. Yeah. Absolutely agree.
So,
and every style, definitely. And they make styles for every beer drinker. They're not concentrating just on IPAs.
And he continues to procrastinate. He doesn't want to get into
just
his list.
IPAs or sours or stouts. They make pretty much what a beer drinker
and they
wants.
do a lot of collabs too.
Correct.
A lot.
Most of them are, they are collabs because obviously their nature.
I think it's a good way for a small brewery to get into areas where they don't have distribution.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yep. So the very first beer on my list, that pours really light.
Yeah.
It looks almost clear when it pours, but when you look at it, it looks more.
Listeners
like a brown ale.
Listeners can't see that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's very.
More of an dark amber with a white hue.
I will say that modern times Devil's Teeth with strawberry was like dessert.
That was delicious.
Oh man, that was delicious. All right, so we're pouring this. So the very first beer on my list that is sitting on the shelf there that blows my mind because 5 years ago this was a beer that when it came out was bought really quickly, and very rarely did
it
you
went
see
from
it
hot
sitting
to
on a
not.
shelf. It literally did go from hot to not.
Like TMZ.
For no good reason other than the fact that people just went on the trend of IPAs and they haven't really looked back. Is Rodenbach's Alexander.
Oh, that's good beer.
That's a beauty.
Oh my gosh, that's a beauty.
Oh man, this is one of the most beautiful beers ever made, and the fact is that this is one of the highest rated beers in history.
I mean, Rodenbach does a lot of really great work. If you can get your hands on Grand Cru or any of their other beers,
if you guys
any of the
believe
reserve
it,
stuff.
2 years ago you had to fight for Alexander.
Yeah,
you did. I remember.
I remember it. Yeah.
I was the one fighting for it.
Yeah, me too.
Because we brought it into the shop, and in a matter of an hour and a half, we sold through the 6 cases we were allocated.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
2 years ago.
That's crazy.
And today,
that's how quick it drops off.
It still sells, but what the sales were merely in 2016 are no more.
Yeah.
So
I have one from a brewery in the same vein that I'm excited to talk
So
about
I'll say that Rodenbach Alexander, if you don't know, is a cherry. It's a cherry kind of Flanders red ale. It's not really a sour because it's not actually sour. It's sweet. It's like candy.
like Flemish red or
it's
something
like a
that.
Flemish
Yeah.
red.
It's a good introduction for someone that wants to dapple their feet into sours, but isn't too excited about the acidity and
It doesn't
taste
tear
that-
the enamel
no.
off your teeth.
No.
And
Like a Cascade or an Uplands.
Rodenbach does a really good job of it's not too woody.
No.
Yep,
You know?
agreed.
Sometimes
So,
it's just like too much oak with some of those barrel aged
Rodenbach
beers.
Alexander you can find just sitting on the shelves all over our area.
It's not even expensive.
And it's not even that expensive.
$14.
Yeah, $15
If I can
for a
recall.
big format bottle.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my first one. What about you?
There are a lot of flavors. It's really a series. But breweries Taro series, those beers are
Outstanding.
Oh yeah.
so outstanding. Goes as a red and the Frost series, the boysenberry, the peach. They're so incredibly good, and you will find they have dust on them in just about any shop you go in. They're not terribly expensive, usually between $12 and $15. Some of the rarer ones will go closer to $20, but they don't all do that.
No.
And if you do like the sour game, they're wonderful.
I agree.
They do fruit well. They do fruit really well.
They do fruit really well, but they kind of they expanded their lineup into our state on a much larger scale, including beers like white chocolate.
Too fast.
Too fast. And I believe when I looked on Ritesh's shelf earlier, there was 2 rows of brewery stuff, and there might have been 30 SKUs of brewery. And it's just when you look at that shelf and you're there to pick up a bottle, it's just too much.
And the Thunder was gone. And they've been in the state for a while.
No.
And I'll tell you something else too. And this is I don't know that this is indicative of brewery on the whole, but I noticed that I'm still getting ads to join their reserve society, and I get them like almost constantly.
Really?
Hey, here's your last chance to join the reserve society. Hey, here's your last chance, because I was a reserve society member, and they keep on. Please buy the reserve society. And so
You're on a
I
retention
feel like
list.
They might have kind of hit a spot where.
They've lost some
of their interest,
Definitely.
and people kind of moved on. But they still make some phenomenal beers. Black Tuesday, Gray Monday. White,
I mean, they sold half the brewery to an investment firm, right? That wasn't a good
I think
look.
that
was a year and a half
might
ago.
have-
That
might
wasn't
have
a
just hurt 'em.
great look,
Okay, I missed
but
that.
they also raised the prices
Yeah.
of the membership. So
Okay, well, that might have had
those things were
something.
pretty expensive. So, but let's get to Ritesh's first one.
Yeah, what's your first
So
one?
to piggyback on Wayne's choice, my first was Brewery's White Chocolate. Because
Yeah, Brewery White Chocolate.
Yeah.
It's a great beer.
Great beer.
year and a half ago when we
Ridiculous.
first received this awesome beer, it literally flew off the shelves. I had to tell people, hey, you can only buy one at a time, because we only got a couple cases in, and we had enough people that wanted it, and it was gone. And then now, last year we got a case, because I was like, okay, well let's dip our toes in it. Let's not go head first. And sure enough, it
Still sitting there?
with me knowing that they sold some of their shares in the brewery. I was like, okay, when that happens, most of it drops off, and sure enough, it did. Still, I think I still have a handful of bottles of white chocolate, which, again, in my opinion, it's probably
It's still drinking
still
great.
a badass beer.
Yeah.
But the appeal, the want, the chase behind that beer has completely depleted.
Yeah. It's lost the newness.
Yeah.
So
I think that probably what you saw was you had a beer that historically people had traded for. Now all of a sudden they could buy it, and they probably went and got
once
theirs.
it's available.
And then they
We've argued this before. We've talked about this. Is it sought after? Is it hot because it's
rare. That's right.
or because it's good?
Yes.
You
I think
find out
it's
once
a
there's
little bit
enough
of both.
available.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think that people that love the chase will always love the chase. So if it's available too easy, they get a little, they turn their nose to it. But oh, well, it's available. I don't really want it.
I feel like there's a lot of beers that are in your shop that are like that.
There's probably a lot
yeah.
like
Because
that.
I know that me personally,
Definitely.
I know that for me personally, I know that's true.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of beers I'm like, yeah, you know, now that I can get access to them.
I don't really want it.
I don't have
I don't
unlimited
want it.
funds, so I can't buy them all.
I mean, when I lived in Athens, Georgia, I used to go to this place called the Varsity all the time. And I think I just, I don't know, when I didn't live there, I used to go all the time when I would go into Athens. And then when I moved there, I never went there. And the reason was because I could get it anytime I wanted to. And honestly, it's not really that good anyway. But I think just the idea that it was scarce.
The appeal.
And I didn't live there.
People are like that
I would
with
go
like
there.
In-N-Out Burger.
Yeah, exactly. In-N-Out Burger is
It's
the
with
same.
everything in life.
So what's number 2?
Number 2 on my list is, and this blows my mind. And no, it hasn't just got on the shelf. It's been on the shelf for a month at least, if not more. That is the 2017 Quesh Tilquin with plums, which is, gosh, man, these Tilquins. These are some of the best, the best lambic.
Excuse me, I don't mean to cough. You know, even if you like sours, that is a very pH forward beer.
It is
not for everyone, but if you appreciate sours,
lambics,
that is going to
very
land.
well done. And these beers historically have never seen shelves ever.
For a lambic lover,
I love
that.
lambics.
That's your bread and butter.
That's exactly right.
I feel, and don't get me wrong, I've seen it. Like, I don't usually shop at other spots, but I was at Hop City. God, what is that market down in on Ponds?
The Tap.
Pond City Market. Jesus.
The Tap on Ponds?
I went to Tap on Ponds, and they had the 1.5s or the 750s of all of their Tilquins, and I bought 2 of each.
Yeah.
Paying retail, I am almost quenched because I know how much they cost, and obviously city prices are a little bit expensive.
It's gonna be high.
City
in town.
market prices are higher.
It's gonna be high in
so
town.
I know that rent's
local.
bread and butter. So I get it. I sympathize with it, and I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna fiddle with it. I'm gonna buy it because I want it. And so I bought them. I bought 3.
I've had
2 of each.
I think I've had all. I think they only send 3 or 4 things into
Correct.
Georgia.
So they had the blackberry, the plum, and the
Isn't it
peach?
It's peach,
right? Yeah, peach.
I think I've had all 3. Now I gotta check, but
I don't think I've
they're
had the peach.
good.
I'm waiting.
The peach
I'm
is
waiting
good,
for a day where I can actually
although,
share that with someone.
Paradox Pichet is.
You know, it's weird though.
You're gonna
Paradox
do
just
okay.
sits on the shelf.
You're
here.
gonna do okay.
Paradox puts out some really
it's
great
probably,
beers.
It's probably $2 or $3 cheaper, and it's
and they
more.
just sit there.
Paradox is
Paradox is
$12.
more?
They're $12 a bottle.
Oh wow, yeah.
$12 a bottle.
I know. I buy it.
and they just sit there.
There's a bottle shop down the street from me. Has no idea what they have. They have a bunch of them. And they put a bunch of them on 40% off all the time. I'm like, this beer can sit for 2
And they
years.
had
What
the
are you worried
pineapple
about?
upside down cake. They've had a lot of really good versions.
Yeah, I completely, me personally, I completely forgot about Paradox because it's been just hurting.
Yeah, I think what happened was honestly they weren't trade. They didn't. They weren't.
They've
didn't
never.
trade very
They've
well.
never been trending.
I've never really heard them being traded. I've had their beers on occasion, not really trading. They just don't have value in that secondary market.
They're so
but
good.
When they came to Georgia, there was a little bit of excitement, and then it fizzled out within like a couple weeks.
And that it in itself was more deeper than just the beer itself. I think that the business aspect of it kind of was screwed up with who they were with and who they are with now. Again, I'm not going to take any names, but
They had to pull out of the state for 5 years.
No,
It's a couple years,
So
didn't they?
3 years ago, they were with one distributor, and then that distributor basically dissolved into a much larger distributor last year.
Okay.
Or no, 2016, end of 2016.
Oh, it got absorbed.
And with that, the bigger distributor is not so much beer savvy.
That
They had no idea what beer they had. So the market basically, it was excited, and then it saw no stock. No new product.
That'll hurt. That'll
I
kill you.
never see people drinking it, and it blows my mind because they do make
it's
some
awesome.
really good
It's
beers.
an awesome beer.
Not to take anything away from, what was it? Tilquin?
Tilquin.
Yeah,
I never see the L when I'm reading it.
the
Tilquin.
Tilquin.
Yeah, they get that
I
super.
know, yeah.
But this was a 2017 Tilquin with plums. It wasn't even this year's.
great
It was
bottle.
last year's.
You'd be all right with it.
And the fact is, like I said, with age, those actually mellow out just a little bit. So the fact that a 2017
Yeah.
is sitting there was like, man, this is crazy. What's
Definitely.
your second one?
All right. The Corson Donk. First of all, I haven't seen the Abbey Brown Ale in a year, and I'm not happy about it. We need to talk. The Abbey Brown Ale needs to come back. But the Agnes Triple, their triple is so incredibly good, and you will see Corson Donk bottles painted, sitting on the shelf everywhere, and those beers blow your mind. They're unbelievably good Belgian beers.
Yeah,
Agree.
agreed. Yeah, I mean, we'll get it.
Unbelievably good. I love the brown, but everything they do, like St. Bernardus, it's up
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
It just doesn't get the same street cred.
I
and there's solid value.
yeah, it's
Solid.
incredible value.
Large format bottle for $14.
Yeah.
You're going to be doing
even
all right.
even the Abbott 12 is like, dude, that's one of the best values in craft beer. Period. Every day
That's one of the best beers you
in the world.
buy.
Fun
It
fact.
is.
Fun fact. That was my first Belgian ever
Wow,
at the brick store.
that's amazing. And
Yeah.
they always keep it on there.
Yeah, it's
So
always
if
on
you're not
draft.
familiar, the Brick Store Pub is one of the best beer pubs.
We talk
in-
about it like every episode. You
in,
say
in
that.
the- but people catch us at different spots. The Brick Store is one of the best beer pubs in the world. They have a Belgian bar upstairs where they maintain a handful of Belgian beers on draft at all times, including Saison Dupont, Saint Bernardus, Abbott 12, and a bunch of different people, right? And so that's probably where you had it.
And that cellar room is killer.
Their cellar room
Yeah, their
is
cellar,
phenomenal.
their bottle list is unbelievable. So what's number 2 for you?
Okay, number 2. It's not so old, but I've seen value of this in secondary, and again, it puts me in more of a shock that it still sits around. Is the Eclipse 50/50 stouts?
Oh, I said that. I told Wayne.
Those
I could not believe that those were just sitting on your shelf. I may not like them myself because they're boozy, but the fact that they're sitting on shelves, it blows my mind.
Because I've asked people that can't get them, that what would you pay to get, let's say, one of their barrel finishes? He's like, dude, I'll pay up to anywhere northwards of $75 for a bottle.
Really?
And I was like, well, how about 26? Because that's what I have. That's what
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got them for.
You need to
How
drive
about you
your
clean-
happy ass down
clean,
to Georgia.
Clean me out and open up some shelf space for me so I can put something new in. And a couple people have come down and bought a few bottles.
That's
Obviously, $26 for a 22 ounce is a much larger investment than you would for, let's
I will say that
$7.50
they've
or-
always been that expensive,
Yeah.
and no one really ever had a problem about paying
the
it.
appreciative aspect
mean-
of that beer has pretty much gone out of the Georgia market anyway,
Right.
because we got hit with, let's say, 6 SKUs when they first released them last year, and the hottest SKUs went out, and the stuff people really don't know much about or are willing to do the research for just basically sat around.
So, if you're not familiar, the Eclipse 50/50 stouts are stouts that are aged in different bourbon and whiskey barrels that are Elijah Craig. There's been Pappy. There's been lots of different barrels over the years, right?
Yeah, so they do a
Four
number of
Roses.
things every year, and they released a list with the release. Obviously, the Georgia market was blessed to get 6 out of the, I think, 14 or 15 they released last year. And out of the 6, I think we've completely sold out of 2. Everything else is still sitting on the shelves just because, again, people aren't willing to do the research, or they just don't know.
They don't know.
It's the education part.
Part of that is like it's at $26.
Am I really gonna like this?
Yeah,
That's
that's
basically
you.
what it
Like
cuts
you
down
want
to.
more of a guarantee you're gonna like it because,
Correct.
and Jason and I have talked about this ad nauseum. Is that beer buyers, even the highest level craft beer buyers, don't necessarily care for high price points.
No.
They don't have the tolerance that wine buyers or high end liquor buyers have.
Well, I would agree to disagree just because people will pay. I mean, you look at some of the big ticket items People will pay northwards of $40, $50, $60 for a bottle of barrel-aged stout. You look at Speedway variants. People will pay...
Which also sit on the shelf now,
Yeah.
which, again, blows my mind.
See, Speedway doesn't blow me away.
No, their
Hawaiian
variants.
Speedway,
Their variants are
some of their variants,
awesome.
like Hawaiian Speedway and the coffee
That's
variants,
why-
are
Outstanding.
phenomenal.
But the price point is what keeps Cascade collecting dust. I didn't put it on my list because I know why it's collecting dust.
Well, I mean, the amount of...
The number of people
Time.
that are willing to pay upwards of $30 for a single bottle, no matter its size, is a smaller audience. That's all I'm arguing.
That's true. I agree with that. Yeah. I mean, I guess for a normal consumer, they only see that, again, they're only looking at it from the outside point of view. If you look at how much time and effort goes into making this beer,
You'd think differently.
you would think much differently. Just like, okay,
That's what we've argued, actually. You're helping make the point.
Let's take a step out of the beer world and go into, let's say, designer purses or shoes or cars. You want a Mercedes? Okay, $40,000, $45,000, $50,000. Again, that's comparatively speaking, that's a $40 to $50 price point on a beer. I mean, give and take. But people who want a car, they would bite the bullet and buy it.
Yeah.
Again, different aspects because you can get it loaned out. You can, make a down payment and get a car. Sure. But it's the same mindset. You don't argue by saying, well, why do I want to spend $50,000 on a car or $300 on a pair of Jordans that I'm going to be scuffing next week?
Right.
But then you look at a beer that's $35, $40 and you say, well, do I really want to spend $40 on a beer?
Right. I think the Eclipse is a good call.
So this is interesting that you asked that because while we don't have a ton of beer news right now, Great Notion is getting ready to release something that's pretty epic for them. Great Notion is an amazing brewery out of Portland. Polly up there is doing an amazing job. They have Double Stack, which is this awesome maple stout. They have Blueberry Muffin, which is one of my favorite beers of all time.
Right.
We've had it on the show.
I've had it.
It's amazing, but they are releasing their very first barrel-aged double stack.
It's like breaking
It's
news.
Bourbon barrel double stack.
You should do your breaking news sound. That you
And a
invented.
lot of the feedback on their Instagram post was not a lot of it, but several posts were about how expensive it was. And if you read through the scroll through the comments, which I have done ad nauseum, a lot of people are saying like, hey, I'll tell you, somebody specifically said, this beer takes 5 years to make. It takes 5 years to make, and it takes X amount of times for us to rotate the barrel, and we have to put so much work into this. And actually, in the Instagram post itself, and they didn't have to do this. They certainly didn't have to do this. They replied to the guy who made the comment of, hey, this is some hipster crap, $125 for two bottles and a cool box and a beanie. And they actually responded to the guy basically saying, hey man, listen, it comes with glasses, it's got a beanie, it takes years for us to make this, it takes years of our labor to put into this, and you don't think it's worth $125 for two bottles, two glasses, and a beanie and some other stuff? Like, come on, man. And that's the problem, is that even now when we talk about how much work it goes into it, people are still kind of, I don't know, that's not worth that much.
No, because a 6-pack of beer is supposed to cost $10.
Right. Well, so the beer that we're drinking right now, and this is not
I've busted him now. Get him fired up.
This is a Situational Ethics from Monday Night Brewing in Atlanta. This is their Garage Series, and this is the Coconut Vanilla Rum Barrel Imperial Stout version. This is from last year, and
I had this last week.
This is actually,
hats off. It's delicious.
This is phenomenal. This is actually this will go down as one of the best beers I had all year, and it has aged a year. They're actually getting ready to release their new version, but a year into it, This beer is drinking phenomenal.
This is our best tangent yet.
So this beer, though, a coconut vanilla rum barrel. Think about how much work went into making this beer. I bet you they got grief over the fact that they asked for $25 for this bottle. And that's ridiculous.
Nah, they didn't get grief over that.
I bet you they did. I bet you they did.
I don't know.
Everyone gets grief.
I bet you they did. Aaron at Monday Night Brewing, message me. Tell me all of the feedback that you got about how
you reach out to him and he texts you back, then we'll read it on the next show.
You, I would
as a
venture
quote
that this got a lot of negative feedback about the cost of it.
And that was my whole point. It's people look at only one perspective. They don't look at they don't try to gauge why it costs this much. If it was a lager costing $15, you can shoot that lager down as much as you'd like. But a barrel-aged beer that's been sitting in barrels, the amount of effort that goes behind making the beer and them packaging it out, paying their employees to do the job, and now they're trying to recuperate some of that cost and make a living. When you buy, let's say, a $25 or a $30 or a $35 bottle from a small brewery, you're not just buying it for the bottle shop. It's more of the brewery and the employees they employ.
That's right. And all the people that takes to make that beer happen and
Correct.
bottle it and label it and all that kind of thing. And this beer has
my whole point.
Ugandan vanilla beans. It's rum barrel aged. And again, I mean, come on, man. It's $25.
My whole point was that beer consumer has a different tolerance for price than wine
they're
consumers.
very fickle in that way.
Because wine consumers will spend $20, $30 for a bottle of wine in a heartbeat.
I'll give you an example.
They'll buy Opus 1 for $80 or more.
80? Opus 1 right now costs $320.
See, exactly. Now, you probably don't sell a lot of that.
No, we actually sell that every year.
See, he sells it out every year, $300. But no, feel free to complain over your $25 bottle of beer.
That in itself,
kick you in the nuts.
Again, winemaking is
we haven't even gotten to bottle 3 yet.
Yeah, it's a completely different art, and it's not comparatively speaking to bourbon or beer. But think about that next time you complain about a $30 bottle of beer.
Time is a factor in cost.
Yes.
And when the beer consumer gets comfortable with that, things will change. They'll be able to charge appropriate amounts of money so that they can manage similar margins for different products. Yeah. So beer number 3.
Number 3, please.
Beer number 3.
Jason in hizzy.
I'm worked up now. Beer number 3. Like, come on, get a life, people.
He's a little red right now. He's a little red.
We're gonna simplify.
Man.
We're gonna simplify.
I paid $50 for this bottle.
We're gonna have to do a lightning round.
I don't have to though. Good thing they're in my neighborhood.
No.
And they're getting ready to release it again. You know what? I'll shell out $75. I actually paid $100. I actually paid $100 for 3 bottles and a VIP experience from this brewer. Why?
It's worth it.
A, the bottles were worth it, but B, all the extra stuff that they gave me, the samples of all the other stuff, the brewery made it worth it. And I know that the beer is worth it.
And you got to eat some ice cream.
And I got
if I remember correctly.
I ate the ice cream. They had gelato and they had that maple
make
syrup,
floats,
which I
stout
bought.
Floats?
Oh, man,
stout floats.
All right, number 3. So I've been there. I've been to their brewery. I absolutely love everything they do. They do weird stuff. I still freaking love it. I don't even care. They are out in the middle of nowhere, out of Austin, Texas, Jester King. And Jester King's Saison American is one of the best American-made saisons that's out there that's being produced in America today.
When it comes to wild fermented beer, I mean, they kind of set the standard.
So outside of Blackberry Farm, which I will say, in my opinion, are the kings of American.
And Hill
saisons.
Farmstead does a great job.
But Blackberry Farm, who they really kind of champion saisons, American saisons. Outside of them, Jester King does it better than anybody else. They use local grains. They are in the Texas Hill Country. My wife and I have been there. It's amazing. Everything they do is amazing. But the fact that you can go to his shop and buy this Saison American right now, and I'll be honest,
I haven't seen that in a lot of other shops.
Ritesh has several other bottles that I can imagine would sit there for a while. They have the smoked fig one that they did with Aaron Franklin from Franklin's Barbecue. which is actually coincidentally a shirt that I'm wearing. Aaron Franklin.
Jeez,
I love
man.
you, send some brisket. But Aaron Franklin from Franklin's Barbecue did a smoked fig stout with Jester King, and I saw it on Ritesh's shelf. And I'll be honest, that might sit there a while.
The
'cause that's-
figlet.
It's the figlet.
Yeah.
It is an interesting beer. You would like it because you love Rausch beers.
I love Rausch.
It's very smoked. But the Saison Americana is one of the most approachable beers that Jester King makes because it's not overly wild and crazy like Fontaflora does.
Not a lot of horse blanket, if you
That's
will.
right. It's not super hay.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like a clean, kind of grainy
He's still red.
Saison.
He's still
and
red.
It's sitting on the shelf. Come on, people.
I see steam
Still
coming
red.
out of his head.
Come on, people.
All right.
What about you?
I think sometimes we in the U.S. market period, we don't exercise table beers culturally the way a lot of cultures do. Certainly European and Asian cultures, the idea of table beer, low gravity things that have a lot of flavor that are around and available for family members when they're doing day drinking / cooking / celebrating and being together, weekend stuff. You can walk in anywhere and buy a very affordable Lindemann's Framboise, however you want to say it. The raspberry lambic, you can get the peach, you can get, listen, this is not expensive. It's super low gravs, like 2.5%.
What?
The Lindemann's.
So I almost chose the Lindemann's.
You know how good that is?
The beer is
Lindemann's like
awesome.
the cherry
It's
bar.
awesome.
They're
It's
like those Luden's cough
awesome.
drops that you used to eat when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, except it's delicious.
Because you had a cough, and I'm using air quotes.
Yeah.
I have a cough, Mom. Can I get some of the?
I have a
drops
cough
with
now,
cherry?
and I might chase it away with that beer.
Lindemann's cherry.
That is
I'm telling you, it's 2.5%, 3%.
I love
it's
it.
outstanding.
I love the raspberry.
But you know
I-
what? People hate on them.
I
don't
drink
know why.
those
delicious.
every time I go to a New Year's party. I bring a half a case,
That's a great idea because they're low alcohol. You can drink a lot of it.
and it's a champagne.
It blows people's mind. It's
Instead
like
of
champagne.
drinking champagne, we drink some fruited raspberry or cassis or
Because the pH is so low, you're not going to get heartburn.
No.
You can share it with anyone. They won't even realize what
No.
they're drinking.
They
They'll
don't
go,
even
this
know
is
if it-
delicious. What
yeah,
is going on?
that's all
You're
it
like,
is.
that's beer. They're like, this is beer. You're blowing my mind.
yeah. Lindemann's does get a lot of hate just because it's
So sweet.
yeah.
It's
Yep.
everywhere.
But it is tasty.
And it's cheap.
You know, we talk a lot about like we think about like and I love it. We talked about it extensively, but we talk about like the Frederick Stahl cherry wines, which are incredibly delicious, and I'm probably one of the biggest fans they've got.
That's
But-
true.
I'm
But
a
those are
fanboy.
like 14-15%.
Correct.
You have the Lindemann's. It's a lot of the same flavor,
A lot of
the
same
cherry
similar
juiciness,
characteristics.
but it's
2.5,
3%.
2.5%.
Tops,
So
yeah.
you could drink a lot more of it.
So you keep it out. I like to
what you
have it
want.
around the house. If you're smoking meats all day or something, you don't want to get sideways too soon.
You can
It's great
polish
to
off a
sip
bottle
on it.
by yourself without
Oh, easy.
catching a buzz.
Not even a buzz.
Yep.
No.
So how about you? Number 3. Roll.
Number 3 for me, I'd have to go with Allagash, James and Julie,
Allagash probably has a few on
or
that list.
any of their 375 formats are basically there's probably 3 people in the shop that are excited about it. Everybody else was like,
Yeah.
I've had it, I don't want it. And
most people go for the Curio, the 4, Black. Those are
definitely the
really
Curio.
popular.
I mean I have 9 SKUs from Allagash that are these smaller formats.
Mhm.
Again,
Which is new for them.
correct. And again, I get it. The price point at $12 a bottle. Given, yeah, that's a little expensive. Again, perspective. You go to a bar and spend $7 on a Bud Light.
Or
But
at
you
a
won't-
game, $12.
You
Yeah,
won't
exactly.
spend $12 on a beer that will change your perspective on
it's
some
delicious.
of
Unbelievably good.
these wild, mixed culture
I
stuff.
like the strawberry one. What was it? Avenge?
Avance.
Avance? So good.
That, the Grenache,
Yes.
the common things, God, what's the other one?
They're
They're outstanding beer.
Unlike a couple of the other breweries we talked about that just don't move a lot of SKUs in our area, period, maybe. Yeah. Like, they do have a few SKUs. They move a lot on, but they have some that sit too.
Allagash, to me, was, again, in my young career, when I first started drinking.
I mean, 15 years ago,
craft.
You would fight for it.
Yeah. In my young career, I would say Allagash was almost an epitome of what a good beer should taste like. To me. Again, it's in my humble opinion. When I drank Allagash, everything they made, you can go to their Belgian Gold or the White Ale, which is probably available at a lot of bars.
The White Ale is at grocery stores.
Correct. But again, it's a great beer for someone that wants to drink just
That's a gateway beer.
Right? I've given it to some of my friends and they're like, oh, I can tolerate this.
Allagash was doing Belgian probably
before it was
better than New Belgium was when that style was really starting to come.
That's what I mean. It was so life altering when I first got into drinking Allagash. I was like, wow, if all beer tasted like this, I would probably invest more money in beer.
Yeah.
But now,
you kind of did.
I went onto the deep end. But when I was a consumer and not a buyer.
Right, I get you.
Like if I was not into the liquor business, and when I first started buying it, I was like, okay, I can drink this stuff every day.
Yeah.
Well, I've got one that you
What's your
can't
four?
drink
What's
every
your
day.
four?
So my number 4 is a beer that historically I have traded for, and it's a beer that is you've gotta be a fan of the style. Is Crooked Stave Nightmare on Brett.
Wow.
You're either a fan or you're not a fan. And it reminds me a lot of Cascade and Uplands.
I would say you're a fan or you're wrong because that beer it's on a level of its own.
It is the quality of that beer and Crooked Stave on the whole, but definitely Nightmare on Brett is unbelievably good. It's consistent. It's the cherry flavor and the Brett works incredibly well together. I think it is sour. I will say it is sour. The Brett definitely helps with that. Yeah. But that beer is of a quality that, man, not a lot of people were doing when it came out, and still it's a phenomenal beer. And 2 years ago, that beer did not get on a shelf, and now it's just sitting on Ritesh's shelf.
Yeah.
So my number 4 is Crooked Stave's Nightmare on Brett. Crooked Stave, I love you. I love what you do. You guys make out some great beers, and keep making Nightmare on Brett. I will keep buying that stuff. What about you?
Dang. All right, number 4 for me. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to go out on a limb, okay? And this isn't every man's beer or every woman's beer. But given the name of it, I'm going to say every man's beer because Rogue Dead Guy Ale is sitting on shelves everywhere, even in grocery stores, and they're not moving a lot. Rogue.
Did you say Rogue?
Keep it simple.
Clean out my ears.
Buy a basic pale ale for once in your life and sit down and drink it and tell me that is not a fantastic.
I have not had a Rogue beer, and I can't even remember how.
I'm not talking about Voodoo Donut, whatever hoojamajiggy that everybody's complaining about this year.
Gorilla, the grape gorilla.
Grape gorilla. I'm not talking about that. They take big risks.
That's a shelf turd as well, but that's in good terms.
I'm telling you,
the lobster beer. I mean, they made a lot of really crappy beers.
All you heads and you whale chasers, I'm telling you, sit down with just a solid, well-made pale ale.
I agree with that 100%.
Pale ales,
I've actually kind of
move it around in your mouth and think about it.
I found myself looking for good pale ales,
and you will find that it's taken for granted and it's overlooked in the best bottle shops. Okay, maybe it moves off of grocery stores out west. I get it. It moves off the shelf on grocery stores out west. It doesn't here for us.
I think Rogue as a brand has seen its heyday in most bottle shops.
I agree.
They get overlooked.
Yeah, of course. They're too big now. They're available too much, or they're everywhere. So people just turn their brown.
You're overlooking it.
Of course,
you're looking past.
That happened to most bigger brands. You look at Sierra Nevada. You look at.
Oh man! But let's just say this. I just want to say this for the record.
I'll say the same
Sierra
thing.
Sierra Nevada Celebration is one of the best beers of this whole season.
Doesn't matter. Basic IPA, Fremont, Sweetwater, doesn't matter. You get that
Yeah.
basic IPA. That is
Seriously,
a delicious
Sierra
beer.
Nevada
Look at Anchor.
still makes awesome beers.
Anchors,
Anchor, I had to discontinue just because I was like, oh my god,
Because he got bought?
well,
Well, they sold to a Japanese company.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, but it's that was before. This was before they got sold.
Tell you what, I just had their Christmas sale last week.
It was
and It's
good.
delicious.
Anchor's
Anchor
Christmas
Steam's
sale. Oh
Christmas
my
sale
god,
is delicious.
that beer is awesome.
They don't go too far with the spices, man. They do it right.
Okay,
So what do you got?
My number 4 is a fairly new brewery
Okay, I'm excited about this one.
out of Anderson, South Carolina.
I know what you're gonna
used to
say.
be a restaurant. It's
Oh, yeah.
kind of still a restaurant, right?
Carolina
Carolina
Barnhouse, the Fidel Barrel
God,
Blackberry.
Blows my mind. Those guys
That
are
beer
killing it.
was my first ever Carolina Barnhouse, and I was like, why am I drinking anything else?
Wow,
I
crazy.
said that to Wayne when we were looking at it. He's like, that's Carolina Barnhouse. I'm like,
That beer
those guys still
is
make really good beers. Peach beers, they make plum, they make
every
kind
fruit
of beer
you can possibly think
they
of.
use. One of the coolest things about Carolina Barnhouse to me, and I do know the brewer David Thornton, so I should say that. But one of the coolest things I know of is
Full
that when I
disclosure.
visited the brewer, he actually gave me some of their house yeast, and the house yeast is yeast that they actually collect themselves from local area trees and stuff.
Yeah.
So all the local fruit trees, they collect that yeast and stuff and the pollen and stuff from those trees, and they use it in their beers. And I think it makes a difference. I think it separates them from a lot of other people.
And that was my whole point by picking a brewery that's fairly young. I think they just celebrated their 3-year anniversary. A 3-year-old brewery that's making killer beer is now becoming a shelf turd because I don't know the reason why, but that's
You got to have the hype.
Yeah.
It's got to be limited release.
If you can hear
It's
us
got to be
now,
limited.
if you can
It's
buy
gotta-
Carolina Barnhouse.
it's
buy it.
got to have some haze, maybe some
Haze, bro.
I mean, they do a very Jester King kind of Fanta Flora-ish thing. They use all local ingredients, and that has a very limited audience. Let's
Definitely.
be real.
and you really have to like puckering, almost enamel removing sours to really appreciate their beers, because that's most of their beers. But they do different styles. Obviously, Georgia Market doesn't see much of that because they're so small. I've been to their brewery. It's probably smaller than my shop.
Yep, it's small.
With their whole,
It's like a garage.
correct, with their whole brewing system, with their whole barrel room. Everything is smaller than probably 3,500 square feet, maybe 4,000.
Got you.
So
It's still bigger than Zebulon. outside of Asheville,
Zebulon is,
which is really, really small. It literally is a garage.
and so for somebody that's that young, that doesn't get support from your everyday craft beer drinkers, not your masses, your influencers. Because a lot of people influence this industry in a way where if they have so much power, they just don't know about it. And if you dabble your feet into some of these brands, you can really make it, not for us as bottle shops, but for the breweries that need your help,
Yep, agreed.
that don't really get it because, it's available now. So what?
I'm waiting for the Sarah McLachlan commercial.
Ooh, I love me some Sarah. I was listening to Sarah
Bugs on
McLachlan today,
and off
by
his
the way.
face.
Her Christmas album, Winter Songs.
What?
My number 5.
I'll edit that out.
I love Sarah McLachlan.
I'll
He's
edit
pointing.
it out.
He's pointing something at us.
It's a
That's
whale
the whale
slayer.
slayer.
It's a
It's a
whale
James
slayer.
Clark whale slayer.
Man's a genius.
Exactly. My number 5, and it's interesting because I'm posting this because one of their logos is a whale, is North Coast's barrel aged Old Rasputin.
Oh,
Come
yeah.
on.
Old Rasputin is delicious.
Old Rasputin is
They don't have a lot of
delicious.
reach. They don't have a lot of reach.
Old Rasputin by itself.
Old Rasputin by
For a
itself.
base
This is
Old
the
Rasputin is
barrel-aged
delicious.
version of Old Rasputin is sitting on the shelf. And you know what was sitting next to it? Old Stock Ale. Not only Old Stock Ale, but there was a 2014, a 2016, there was two 2014 versions and a 2016. I'm like, That beer is you have a 4-year-old old stock ale just sitting on the bottom of your shelf, and yet this is where we are, people. You would rather gun for gloop gloop super thick IPAs, and you're missing out on barrel aged old Rasputin and old stock ales that'll be around in 10, 15
Don't look
years.
at me,
People
it's his
still be
store.
talking about it. No, it blows my mind that people that this just sitting on a shelf. That beer is phenomenal.
I haven't seen it in a lot of places.
If you've
I
never
like
had
Old
Old
Rasputin.
Rasputin,
I've had both.
It's a Russian Imperial Stout, and it is
Motor oil.
delicious.
It's motor oil.
It's motor oil,
It's
but
delicious.
the barrel aged version is like it's chewy and fudgy and boozy, and man, it's all of those things that I want in a good Russian Imperial Stout.
You don't need dinner when you drink that.
Nope. So there you go. That was my number 5. North
Awesome.
Coast barrel aged Old Rasputin. What about you?
Excuse me. Terrible cough. Hopefully it's gone.
It's gone.
Hopefully it's gone before this goes and it self-edits out. But I'm holding out hope on that technology. All right. Brooklyn Sriracha Ace.
Ooh.
Sriracha Ace
I thought you were
is
going to say something else when you said Brooklyn.
amazing.
I thought you were going
No,
to say...
not the number 2, Farmhouse.
No, I thought
it's
you were going to
okay.
say... I thought you were going to say Black Ops,
It doesn't exist, sir.
Yeah, that's not around anymore.
which it has up until recently sat on shelves.
So
Although it doesn't exist
listen, the
anymore.
Sriracha Ace, a lot of effort goes into that beer with their Belgian yeast. Then they kind of let it sit.
So talk a little bit about
They
just real quickly,
re-ferment it
like how
with
does that work?
champagne yeast.
Okay.
It's called Sriracha Ace because Sriracha Ace is a hop,
Yep.
and they use it's like a single hop ale that they use Belgian yeast with when they initially ferment it, and then they dry it out, and then they re-ferment it in the bottle 100% with champagne yeast, and it just has this deep apple fruity flavor to it with this that works with the flavor of the Sriracha Ace hop. This bottle is amazing. It's $8, $9, and it's collecting dust. It's a large format bottle for $9. It tastes unbelievable, collecting dust in stores all over the East Coast. It makes no damn sense at all.
I've never seen anyone drink that beer ever.
Really?
Never.
I've bought this beer 20 times.
I've had it. It's a good beer to start your night with
'Cause it's a farmhouse ale
It's
at the end of the
not
day.
super funky. It's not super heavy, but it does have that a little bit of that spice that I actually like. I don't mind in my beer, and I've had it on draft and or bottles. So I've had it on both formats. I actually prefer the bottle format because it's a little muted, which helps drink that beer down a little better. Because on draft with the whole CO2, it kind of opens it up a little more and it bites you right in the face. But in a bottle, it's a little muted, which helps with the hop variety because I don't think a lot of people use Sriracha hops.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've seen a lot of it.
Not at all.
It reminds me a lot of the
I don't know a
Duchess
ton of
de
people.
Bonnier.
Begonia, yeah.
Begonia. It reminds me a lot of that, not as appley and not as live a carbonation because that brewery is definitely going for a rich Belgian experience. Whereas what Brooklyn's doing with that beer is it's really wonderful. You get a bottle of it. It's super cheap. It's closer to a farmhouse table beer, I would say, than a rich Belgian. But it sits around at $9 blows my mind. I buy it at a farmer's market near me all the time.
All right. What about what is your number
five.
5?
Number 5, I think I had a beer listed. I think Jason's already hit it on the head, so I'm gonna go off the wind and look at
Off the cuff.
Imagine my shelves in my head, which I
You know your shelves.
I could probably draw a picture.
Nice.
I could draw a picture of what's sitting where. Last one I would probably go with, again, this is a price point issue more than the beer issue. I would say Against the Grain
35K?
70K.
Ooh, 70K. I don't even know that I know 70K.
70K is their barrel aged version.
Ah.
Big fat brother of 35K.
Interesting.
Outstanding beer. I mean, last year again,
It's collecting dust.
Last year we sold out almost instantly because that was one of the first times because they used to release it only at the brewery, and this year they released it a
Are
little
they
more.
the ones that do the Bo and Luke?
Correct. The Bolo series. Yeah, they do the.
Okay.
They do the. I forget the wood they use.
I'm not familiar with that.
Ambergana wood, whatever that wood. Again, I might be mispronouncing it, but that they released 70K and then 70K finished in that Armangana wood, which are outstanding imperial stouts, but people are scared to buy them because of the price point.
What's the price point?
Well, the 70K is $23.99 for a barrel aged stout.
How much is it?
$23.99.
That's not that bad.
And it's a
We've already went over
750.
this.
It's a 750.
It's a
And
big
then
bottle.
the Ambergana oak or Ambergana wood finish is $27.99.
I mean, you really need someone to. Once you open that, you need 3 or 4 people with you.
Of course,
Like,
yeah, it's a 13 and I
that's a-
think it's a 13% beer.
Yeah, this is a party bottle. You
But,
can't.
I
You're not
mean,
going to sit around and watch a game.
How
and
many?
Put that down.
Tell me how many shares happen in a week.
Shares? Where?
Here in this area, one a week,
Yeah.
If not more.
Not anymore because you stopped sharing. Remember?
Yeah,
That's
There
okay.
was
And-
one.
and-
We
and
stopped
again,
on
I'm
your
not,
share.
I'm
one
not-
every couple of weeks now.
I'm not saying it's a beer that you should bring to every bottle share, but the amount of bottle shares that happen, I've been to many.
You bring it to a share.
I've seen videos, I've seen pictures, I've seen kill shots. What do we see? It's a bunch of haze. That's all there is in most bottle shares.
You never looked at the
There's
pictures.
a lot of
from
fruity
mine.
sours too. A
No,
lot of big
I mean,
lacto bombs,
look,
lactose
We
sour
start
bombs.
with IPAs, and then we go to sours, then we go to Belgians, and then we go into stouts.
But
and,
again,
man, it gets
there's not
buck wild.
many. There's not many
There is
big
not many. You're
stouts,
right. You're
which
right.
which
The stouts because you can't go back.
We do
So
get
at a
ton
share,
of
once you go
stouts at
stout,
ours.
you're
a lot
in
of
there.
pastry stouts.
I would disagree. Once I go an IPA, I can't drink anything else because it wrecks
Your
my palate.
palate's done.
Like that hot just wrecks my palate. I can't drink anything else after.
It's a bold move, Cotton. We'll see if it works for him.
Yeah, we'll see what works for us.
Well, again, and my palate's completely different because I drink a lot of whiskey. So for me, it if I go to something that's bitter
Oh.
and right in your face, my palate shuts down.
Have I got an event for you?
Yeah,
we need to
exactly.
talk.
All right.
All right, listen.
So I'm gonna throw
we're
out
way over time,
We're
so
way
you're
over
gonna
time.
have rapid fire this.
Now I'm gonna throw out my 2 honorable mentions in a rapid fire. We're not gonna talk about them because I don't need to. Ritesh had a 2017 Highland Brewery out of Asheville, Cold Mountain. That beer is a phenomenal
bottle.
winter beer, and the fact that it when it used to come to in our state, it used to sell out in a couple of days, and now I've got
Hours.
one from last year. It blows my mind. Now it came out in smaller format bottles this year, but last year's big bottle is sitting there on the shelf. It blows my mind. The other one is, and this one you should be ashamed of, every single one of you. This is 2016's Great Divide Barrel Aged Hibernation Ale. This beer is 2 years old. It's the Great Divide Barrel Aged Hibernation Ale. Hibernation Ale is one of the best beers of our season. The barrel aged version is phenomenal, and this beer is 2 years old and it's still sitting there.
Man, you're a burping machine.
What about you?
I got nothing.
Well, we're drinking a Nitro beer, actually. We're drinking
nothing else.
the Nitro Mole Porter from Second Self in Atlanta. So it's very nitrous-y. So what about you, Wayne? What were your bonus round beers?
I don't really have any.
You didn't have any honorable mentions?
Well,
Some
listen,
that just barely missed the cut?
I buy a lot of sour beers. I buy a lot of larger format sour beers.
Okay.
Not because I feel bad that they sit there, because a lot of those beers are very expensive, but they're delicious. So listen, Uniani, Cascade, those are delicious beers, but people don't buy them because it's upwards of $30 in most of the shops you go into. Some of them 28, 29, some of them 32,
Unani
33.
retails for $13.99, which again blows my
So listen,
mind.
I know why they're sitting there, so I can't really put it on the list. But they are sitting there collecting dust. So listen, if you have a heart this holiday season,
Be jolly.
Go
We have
Buy
given
be
you
some-
jolly.
a list of beers to go out and
be
buy.
go buy expensive sour ales, eat some Tums, and have a lovely time.
Exactly.
Is that all right?
All right.
You
any-
have a
any-
bonus
any
round?
honorable mentions for you?
For me, as sought after as this beer was, Boulevard Love Child number.
That was
'em.
another good one.
Take
a great
your
one.
take your
Sitting
pick.
on my
That's a
shelf
great
over
one.
there.
Take your pick. 5,
Come on,
6,
any of them,
7.
They're
I mean,
all great beers.
this beer used to be a unicorn when I first started into craft beer, and now I can't beg people to give it away.
Agreed.
I still carry it because there are some hardcore fans.
It's a great beer.
But
I could have sworn you were gonna say Goose Island Bourbon County Stout because there was still some sitting.
I wanted to.
Those sit for a
I
reason.
could have
Though.
sworn you were gonna say
You know why
that.
that's sitting.
or some Wicked Greed stuff. But
Wicked Weed stuff sitting for another same reason.
That.
No,
it's sitting.
But Bourbon County, people have still kind of held on to their.
As a business owner, I cannot in not right conscience. That's the wrong word, but in good faith. Hate on breweries that decided to get paid for their art.
Good for them.
Right?
Good for them.
Again, I'm not going to get
that's
into.
what we've always said.
I'm not going to get into
always said
details.
good for them.
But if a big conglomerate came to my store tomorrow and said, "Hey man, I'll give you $20 million if you want to sell me your store," I'm going to pack up my stuff and I'm out. That doesn't mean I don't appreciate the art of beer or art of craft.
No, but
I've
those
got a
breweries,
family to take care of.
Those breweries knew what they were getting into when it comes to perception of their product.
We understand that.
And
they sold that too.
That's a harder detail to swallow just because what they stood for, especially our little friends out of Asheville.
What they made you think they
stood for so much more and said, you know what?
They sold that too.
A lot of that money can help a lot of the greed that they had in their brains and their stomachs. So again, no hate, because if somebody gave me 800 million, I don't even know how many zeros are in there tomorrow.
But if you have an artisanal product,
of course,
and you sell it to people who are aware of that level of artistry,
correct.
And they find that distasteful, they will stop buying your things. That's what we've talked about.
No.
Good for them, but also don't expect people to buy your stuff.
No, absolutely not.
Enjoy life in Albertsons and Kroger. You're going to sell a lot of beer. I get it.
Or markets that aren't really craft savvy, which I don't believe doesn't
We're just
exist.
not target audience anymore.
No. And I, apart from my business, me personally, outside of the store, I've never bought into anything that's not owned by a smaller family or someone that's trying to make it.
Because you are a smaller family-owned business, right?
Correct.
I get that.
I support people who are in the struggle, in the making, instead of somebody that already has more money than brains.
I thought about this after
we'll get into the argument of private equity
after the
later.
Wicked Weed purchase. We knew the rep for Wicked Weed, the local rep for Wicked Weed, and you know what? The guy was a really nice guy, and the guy ultimately just had to provide for his family.
Yeah,
and
of course he did.
at the end of the day, he has to do what is right for him and his family and what he feels comfortable with.
And do you think that was his choice? I doubt it.
I don't think it was his choice.
He didn't get a vote.
I think it became his choice really quickly, right?
It became his way of living.
It became his challenge.
Right, and Funky Buddha, I believe, was in a same situation where Funky Buddha, the guys that were at Funky Buddha, they didn't know they were going to get bought by Constellation Brands, and now all of a sudden they were like, okay, well, I have a choice. Do we stay on with where we're at, which is, we've been a happy craft brewery now for all these years. Do we stay here and provide for our family
or do you go to another brewery?
Or do you go to another
brewery? Or do you just wait and stay
here another one
until they let you go?
And so I don't know
that Funky Buddha wound up doing.
I don't want to be put in that position.
No, never.
And I feel bad that
either way you're gone. Either way,
you gotta supply. You gotta support your family.
It's a
so
tough thing.
that's your
either
that's your
way
bottom line.
they're gone.
Exactly right.
The big Constellation Brands, InBev, they don't keep anybody.
They give two
craps about you, and that's shown over and over again. If you are familiar with the story of Constellation and how it ended up working out for Funky Buddha, they actually laid off all of the craft beer division that were over Funky Buddha on a conference call on a weekly sales meeting.
Yeah, I think it was about 400 odd people.
Right,
that
400 plus
basically
people,
just lost
including a
everything.
friend of mine who lost his job after leaving.
It affected
a
Ballast
very good
Point
brewery.
people. It affected a lot of people.
So I don't have any sympathy for those folks.
No.
I really don't, because they don't care, and that's why I say everybody has to do what's right for them and their family. I don't. That doesn't mean I have to support it.
And I do what's right for me and my palate.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's more craft beer. So listen, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for
Ritesh.
Thank you for having me.
Join
Thanks,
us.
guys.
This was a great conversation. We could talk about this all night long.
We'll probably be here for
We won't.
another 5 hours if we kept talking.
Yeah,
But
we would be.
I think it's
Anyway, no after party. We ran long.
No
Give the
after
people
party.
back some time in
No
their
after
day.
party. Thanks
and
to,
call it.
Second Self, Creature Comforts, Monday Night Brewing, Untitled Art, Modern Times. Thanks for brewing beer that we enjoyed. Thanks for all
And all the breweries we mentioned today. If you find something on the shelf from them, do support all those
Drink
breweries.
it.
They're all wonderful.
Yep. And the last thing that I'll say is just support your local craft beer
Keep it
bottle
local.
shop.
That's what
Honestly,
I do.
those guys like Ritesh, they do a lot to, further craft beer in our community. I'm not saying this because he paid me or because he's sitting in front of me, but this guy is championing really good craft beer in our area every single day. And you want to support these guys. Why? Because you need a bottle shop that you can buy this beer
Local.
at. And these are the guys that are fighting for you.
Local
So
shops, local
support
pops.
these guys.
Local
support them
shops.
when you get a chance.
Local
much
pops.
appreciated. And thank you for having me here. It was definitely a pleasure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Awesome.
you.
Thank you. We will see you in January with a new episode.
End of January.
Into January.
This is
That's right.
January.
This is January.
This is December.
We're going to see you again. Announcement time.
Yep.
All 2 people listening still an hour in.
Yeah.
2 episodes a month.
Yep. That's right.
Wait for it in your feed. Subscribe.
Bye.
Eh.
Are you all right?
Bye.
Jason just died.
Bye.
Bye. If you have a question or something you would like us to discuss, drop us an email, sip@lastbeershow.com, or hit us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at The Last Beer Show. A reminder that we are proud members of the ABV Network. Go to abvnetwork.com to see all the amazing podcasts, or go to your podcast app of choice, search for something like The Last Beer Show, The Firewater Review, The Bourbon Daily, among others. And if you really want to have a good time, go to Instagram and follow the hashtag ABV Network Crew. There's always all kinds of stuff happening on there, and it's a lot of fun. So anyway, thanks for listening. Peace. Oh, wait. One more thing. Please do us a solid and go to iTunes, rate the show. We would be extremely grateful. Thank you very much. Thanks again for listening.